Hello folks, my name is Mark, this is Why I Hate the World, how you guys doing? So I'm sure you've all seen this story about these MAGA kids in Washington who were supposedly taunting a Native American protester. And I think this is a good example of why you should really not immediately take any story that you see on Facebook or Twitter at face value. You should wait a little while, wait for more info to come out and investigate a little more before you react, because I think a lot of people, reacted a little too quickly to this, and a lot of people have egg on their faces now, right? So, a little background if you don't know what's happening. Basically, these kids, they came from a Catholic high school, Covington Catholic High School, which I think is back east somewhere. And they were on a field trip and they went to Washington for a anti-abortion march, right? Which is their right, they're conservatives, right? They're Catholics, they're anti-abortion. So, that's their constitutional right to go protest, right? And their anti-abortion march ran into a native rights march at the Lincoln Memorial. And that's where all of this hilarity ensued. Now, what we got, right, when I first saw this, I saw it on Reddit, okay? And what I saw was a photograph of the kid, the one kid, his name is Nick Sandman, I think, right? Which sounds like a made-up name. That actually sounds like a wrestler's name, Nick Sandman, but anyway. And he was standing there and he had a Make America Great Again hat on, and there's this Native American guy right here who's like drumming on this drum, and the dude is like, had to be at least 70 years old, and Nick is like this young looking kid, and he had this really stupid look on his face, like, right, this like really dumb looking smirk. And it looked like him and all of his friends who were in the background were surrounding this Native American guy, and basically, from what I read on Reddit, is that they got in his way and wouldn't let him continue walking, right, on his march. And supposedly they were chanting, "Build the wall," right? Which, if you think about it, is really fucking stupid to say to a Native American, right? And that was the story we got, and everybody got really pissed. And the left-wing hate machine went into high overdrive, and people were doxing this kid and trying to dox his friends in the background and emailing his school and trying to get him expelled. And the school said they were going to take punitive measures and try to expel some of the kids. And all of this shit happened, right? A day later, it turns out that's not exactly the case, okay? And what really happened was the kid went to Washington to go into this march, right? And they're marching, and they went to the Lincoln Memorial on their anti-abortion march, right? And they all had their Make America Great Again hats on because they're conservatives, okay? And, you got to remember that just because you're a Republican, a conservative, doesn't mean that you're an out, rabid, racist, Nazi skinhead, right? A lot of people who are conservatives and they vote Republican, and they do it for religious reasons, which is what these kids were, And yeah, maybe the politicians they support have policies that have a racist intent behind them, right? But they themselves don't consider themselves to be racist, and they don't act in a racist way towards anybody. And some of them may even be very conscious of that, but they vote Republican because they want to save the unborn fetuses and shit, right? A lot of conservatives are like that. You got to remember, there's it's a fallacy to think that everyone who opposes you is exactly the same. I can't remember the name of the fallacy, but basically that's something that we all, it's a cognitive bias that we all have. You tend to think that everyone who is opposed to you believes and acts and does the exact same shit, where it's like, no, that's not exactly true. The conservatives are as diverse as the liberals and progressives are. These kids aren't Nazis. They weren't like, skinhead Nazi fucking, frog meme shirt wearing assholes. They were just like high school kids who just, happen to go to religious school, and that's why they were there, right? So anyway, they're on their thing, and they go to this, they're at the Lincoln Memorial, and there was a group of guys who were part of the Black Israelites, right, who had a table outside of Lincoln Memorial, and they're passing out literature and shit. And if you don't know who the Black Israelites are, they're like basically the equivalent of the Westboro Baptist Church, right? Extreme borderline hate group, right? In fact, some people would classify them as a hate group. Basically, hate, towards white people, right? Now, a lot of people watching this are going to say that, well, you can't be racist towards white people. These guys are. Basically, they were hurling insults at these high school kids because they had MAGA hats on, calling them names and shit. And there were some of the high school kids were actually black, right? So you got to keep that in mind. See, that photo we saw, you just saw white kids behind him, right, in the crowd. That's not exactly true. Some of the kids there were black as well, right? And the Black Israelites were calling the black kids the N-word, right? That's, not the other way around, right? And I don't know. I mean, maybe there's video of the high school kids hurling insults at these Black Israelite guys, but that's not the video I saw. The video I saw, it was the other way around. They were calling names. One name that stuck out to me was future high school shooter, right? Which I'm gonna have to use that in a sentence because that one's awesome. But they were hurling insults at the kids, and the video I saw, the kids were like trying to defuse the situation. Like every time you heard the N-word, they were all like, whoa, hold back. And that's not cool. That's one thing I remember hearing that. One of the kids said, that's not cool. So there was like reports that they were saying build the wall and shit. That's not in the video. In the video, the kids are doing like high school fucking cheerleader chants. Okay. And in front of the Lincoln Memorial, school spirit like chants, right? And then the Native American guy comes up and he's drumming, right? And he walks up to the kids and he's drumming with them, and the kids start singing along. Like they start kind of getting into it, and the one kid who's like sitting there in his face or whatever, the Native American dude comes up to him and is drumming, and he's like, doesn't say anything. He's just chilling there. And actually for a little bit in the video, he's like smiling and kind of dancing a bit, and then he just sort of goes, ah, and he just doesn't say anything, and he just chills. And that's what I saw. So unless there's a big section of the video where these kids are hurling insults and chanting build the wall and all that shit that just got cut out and I didn't see it, if that's the case, send that to me, because, I want to know the truth, okay? But from what I saw, it was characterized like we got completely the wrong story from what actually happened, And that's the thing, is that you gotta remember these things, right? So when you get these things from Facebook, when you get them from Twitter, I saw it from Reddit, right? You gotta remember that you're getting, those are very biased sources, right? None of those things that I just listed are actual news sources. They're social media sites, okay? There's a difference, right? You get something from a news organization, they research it, they go out, they talk to people, they get the full story, right? Most of the time, okay? And if they don't, then they get really shitty reputations, like fucking, daily, what's that one? Daily Caller, right? You can pretty much guarantee that anything you see on the Daily Caller is going to be total bullshit. They just make it up, and everybody knows it. But if you see something on CNN, MSNBC, or even Fox, most of the time Fox, right? The actual news from Fox, they actually do investigate, and each one of those that I just mentioned has a slant, but you never would have saw that story come out of any of those the way that it came off of Facebook, right? Because when you get something shared via Facebook, it's just being shared by some guy. Some guy is just putting it on there and, wants you to think a certain thing. And, think about like watch the full video. Well, you can't watch a full video because it's like fucking 10 hours long. But watch the extended video and then compare it to what first came out in the beginning. And you'll see how much got cut out, right? And you got to remember that, you know, when you're getting this information from social media, you know, you can't believe it at face value right away. I mean, this kid and his friends potentially could have had their lives ruined by this. I mean, the one kid standing there already got doxxed and people are fucking with him. And it just so happens that the rest of the story got out and it's getting a lot of media attention, and maybe people will leave him alone now, you know. But think of what would have happened if his side never got out. You know, he just would have just suddenly gotten the wrong side of the internet hate machine, and, you know, would have to, I mean, people can ruin your fucking life, you know. Like they'll call your job, they'll get you fired from your job, they'll start fucking with your neighbors, they'll call your family, right? Stuff like that, you know. If you piss the wrong people off on the internet, they can make your life a living hell. And that's what almost happened to this kid. I hope he's all right. I hope they leave him alone. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe he's stupid for wearing that hat, but everybody has the right to believe what they want, you know, politically and as far as their religion goes, right? And he was perfectly within his right to be there in Washington and to march for an anti-abortion thing. And whether you agree with that or not, and personally I don't, right? But that doesn't mean that I get to tell him not to do it. And, you know, it doesn't mean that he gets to have his life ruined just because he was wearing a red hat and has a photograph of him that makes him look like he's doing something that he didn't do. I mean, so anyway, just I hope that this is a lesson to us all, that whenever you see something like this, you know, just don't overreact. You know, don't overreact. Take it, you know, a little slower and do a little bit more investigating before you charge out there to, like, you know, right these wrongs. So I think I want to end with this. I think the reason why people did overreact to this so much is because when you often see these situations like this, and it actually is, like, say, you know, some people doing some really horrible racist thing to somebody, they often get away with it. Like, you know, like an example, like, for example, last month there was those kids who were, like, in that prom photo where they were all doing a Nazi salute, you know, and apparently the guy that was taking the photo told them all to do that, and then they all did it and whatever. Nobody got held accountable for that. You know, I mean, at the very least, you know, maybe the kids shouldn't have had anything happen to them, but at the very least, the guy taking the picture should have, like, been suspended or something, you know, or, like, you know, not, I don't know, fired, but definitely should have had some, you know, been held accountable in some way. And, you know, nothing happened to those guys, and it hit the news, and it's like, you know, I think stuff like that pisses people off. So when they see that kind of thing happen, they're, you know, immediately out for blood. And it's like, you know, you can't react too fast to these things. It's always a good idea to slow down and do a little more research before you end up hurting the wrong person. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I got, folks. Adios.